welcome to today's episode of the Course Building Secrets podcast. I am thrilled to be here with you today. Today, I am presenting on audio here on the podcast as well as on YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing the visuals that we have for this particular topic, go ahead and jump on our YouTube channel and you can watch this video as well. All right, so today I want to talk about the 3 different types of online programs that you may choose to do in your business as you're productizing your service or really creating out that product side of your business. Okay, so there are really 3 different types of online programs, and so I'm going to kind of unpack the 3 different kinds, and then why you would want to use them, when you would use them, and kind of how they're different, how they're the same, all of those kinds of things as we go through this episode today. So here's the deal. The reality is that the strategy you have, the tech stack you have, and sort of the delivery methodology that you have as you're delivering these programs, all 3 are different. And so that's why it's really important to determine what works best for you, your students, and your business before you get started kind of going down the path of creating an online program. All right, so let's get to it. The first type of online program that is out there is called an on-demand training. And the technical term for this is asynchronous, meaning that somebody is interacting with the material, the program, the course, whatever you want to call it, on demand, right? So they are able to access it anytime, 24/7. You are not there live, but you have pre-recorded or pre-created training that helps them to achieve their goals. And that is the first type, which is on-demand training. Now, with on-demand training, this is something that you are putting in the work ahead of time, and then you can sell it over and over and over again, right? Like you don't need to keep recreating it every time. So you're packaging it, you're putting it together, and you are putting it out there for people to consume. Don't confuse on-demand training with courses that are just information type courses. We'll talk about that in a minute, but they're not the same, right? So it's just a type of course. It's not the quality or the approach that you're taking to build it. It's just like this is the type of program that is available out there, right? So on demand is the very first option. Okay, the second option, I'm going to go to the other side, which is live virtual training. So this is when you're actually showing up live to teach your curriculum, your framework, whatever you want to call it, to students in real time, right? So instead of meeting live in person, like at a workshop or a training session or a class in a classroom or whatever else, you're just sort of transferring the way that you're doing that and putting it online in a virtual environment, but it's still live. It's called synchronous training, so it's still live. You're still interacting with people in real time, meaning there's a time and a date and in a specific time everyone is joining together. And so the advantage of this is obviously you are able to present in a live environment, so people are able to ask questions. You're able to get that feedback, that immediate feedback. Either they are understanding it or they're not understanding it, or you're losing people, all that kind of stuff, right? Like you can get that live feedback. So on one hand, we have on-demand training, which is pre-recorded that you've already put out there. People can access whenever it is it's convenient for them. And live virtual training, which is that it's all completely done live. And so they could watch replays, right? But that's they're just re-watching the live session. Okay, so those are the 2 main sort of decision points that someone makes is, am I gonna package it and put it out there so it is something that people can consume anytime, or am I going to present it live every time? A lot of times with cohorts, a lot of times people think that that's reteaching the same material every single time, just with different people, right? So 2 different ends of the spectrum. And then in the middle, we have what we call the hybrid experience. And the hybrid experience is really taking the best of both approaches, and you're still showing up live in different scenarios, but the majority of your curriculum and your signature framework, right? So the the sort of roadmap that you have for people to get from where they are today to that transformation, the majority of that is pre-recorded. So they're going through that. Maybe they're doing some homework, maybe they're doing some activities that you want them to do, and they're able to show up live. So either you're doing some training, some review, or some coaching in a live environment, but the majority of the experience is pre-recorded. Now, I'm not going to necessarily dive into, which one I like the best, but I will tell you that there are definite advantages and disadvantages of each one of these. The very first decision point to look at is, what are you most comfortable with? Sometimes we make decisions based on our experience, right? Like, well, I've only been in live classes, and so that's all I know. Or I guess I can just create videos and put them out there, right? So there's a lot more to the decision point of like, how are you creating them? What's the quality that you're creating? How do you get people to come back and participate in all of that? But at the core, the first decision point is, what do you like, right? Do you want to be involved with your students and go through the learning process with them, see their feedback, and experience live how they're going through it, and kind of getting the information and getting the learning that you have for them? Um, is that where you want to be spending your time and your energy? A lot of times people do it this way because they miss that personal interaction. So they want it to all be live. Or do you want it all prepackaged, where it's packaged, they're able to go through it, you've created an experience that allows them to go from point A to point B, they're getting the transformation, they're being super successful, and they can go through it on their own time when they want it? Which camp do you fall into? Most of the time, the decision is, well, I kind of want to leverage my time, leverage my expertise, and create an asset, which is the on-demand piece of, side of this. With, I still want to connect with people. I want to be able to answer their questions. I want to coach them, help them with any obstacles or hurdles along the path, so I can really get in and work with people as they need it, so I make sure people get transformations. Most of the time, that's where people land. And so that is a hybrid experience. It's really being able to leverage the things that are kind of core to your program, and then helping them apply the different pieces of teaching in a live environment. Again, coaching or showing up in office hours, or doing a little bit of teaching and reinforcing of the message of what was taught, maybe going over homework, maybe saying, hey, submit this work and we'll review it and look it over and do all of that and get it back to you. So there's a lot of different ways that you can leverage participation in a hybrid experience and leverage your time, so you're not redoing a session each and every time. So a great example of a couple of different examples. So Tony Robbins, if you know Tony Robbins, he does personal development. Tony has been doing the same live training. Now he does them live in person, except during COVID, he kind of switched to live virtual, but he does them live and in person, probably, I don't even know how many times a year, lots of times a year, right? And he teaches the same material over and over and over and over again for new audiences each time. The curriculum is the same, what he's teaching is the same, and he's showing up and doing that live. Now, there are lots of advantages to doing that, but when you think about the fact that Tony's been doing this for, I want to say a long time, 40, 50 years, right? Like, he's literally been teaching this same material for a very, very long time. And so, his decision point was, do I want to be part of this experience with people as they're learning? Or is this something that after I've done it a certain amount of time, I want to package it, put it out there for people to consume, and then and then they can, really experience him as a virtual version of himself, right? And he actually has both, right? You can still, back in the day, it was audio tapes. Now he's got an online version of his programs. But that's a great example, right? So he still wants to show up live. That still feeds his need to be in front of his people. And it allows people to also have an on-demand option if, that's not available to them. But typically it's, until you get to a certain place, it's one or the other. And so that's a great example of that. I will tell you that for me, and our passion is in the on-demand training piece. And how do you make that into such a rich experience that people can get success, even maybe more than they can get success in a live environment. And that's really our passion. And so we play in the on-demand and hybrid space where we're helping people leverage what they have as an asset, their kind of their core framework as an asset, and then showing up live to help people overcome hurdles and obstacles along the path. So you're really helping solve real juicy problems, not answering the same questions over and over and over and over and over again, right? Interestingly enough, when I started my career way back in the day, it was with Kinko's Corporation, and Kinko's Corporation at the time was incorporated, and they actually had a corporate office here in Minnesota. And I did orientation. So I would go out to the stores and I would do orientation. And I think it was like, intro to customer service or something. And so we would do these every single week, right? New groups every single week in person all the time. And I got to the point where I literally could teach the material and I was thinking of something else. So like my brain was thinking of something else and I literally am teaching the material. And I was like, this is painful because I'm just repeating the same information and I'm not even engaged. I'm not engaged with the people. I mean, nobody knew I was not thinking about it, but like I didn't feel engaged. I didn't feel like I was answering, really important questions or helping people knock down barriers that they're having in their learning process. It was just sort of like general questions that I've answered 400 other times. And I just knew at that moment was sort of the linchpin moment for me where I was like, okay, wait a minute. Like, why would we not leverage the tools and technology that we had? And I'm going to tell you, that was like so long ago, we barely had computers, if that tells you anything. But why would we not leverage what we had in order to create a cool experience that people can consume sort of the more basic general things that they needed as foundation or to kind of get started in the learning process, and then use our time in the classroom to really practice and do a practical application and answer questions and help people solve real problems around the topic that we're teaching. And so that actually sort of started my career in e-learning, which is what on-demand training is sometimes called, where we've been for a very long time helping people create experiences online that not only match a live experience in the classroom, but take it to the next level where people are able to practice in a safe environment. They're able to go through scenarios and practice. So when they actually hit the job or hit the experience that they're trying to, get to, right? That transformation they're trying to get to, they actually can do it with ease. It's like if you think about airline pilots, right? Airline pilots do not just like go to one live classroom, maybe read a book or a manual, and then go fly a plane. Doesn't work that way, right? Like, thank God. But what they're doing is they're doing simulations. They're doing flight simulations over and over and over again. But the material that they need, the foundational material that they need first, they're going through in some type of, one of these types of experiences, and then they're doing simulations. So they're simulating flight, real flights so they can practice. So when they're doing a real flight, it doesn't feel like it's any different because they're doing simulations. What if you could spend your time helping people simulate success and practice and solve real problems when you're doing that hybrid experience, right? So they're learning and you're able to offer either in an on-demand simulated training, which is a whole nother topic I can get into, or a hybrid where you're kind of just, simulating that you're spending your time live doing those items instead of teaching or standing in front of a live class or a virtual class, just giving them information. It's a completely different experience. So anyway, wasn't going to go down that rabbit hole, but when you look at each of these options, there's definitely the first one is like, what are you most comfortable with? What is going to match the strategy that you have in your business goals? If your business goals are to, you know, be able to sell a package program where you're also not spending all your time in the program, you can't have it be live virtual because that's dependent on you and your time forever and ever and ever, right? And so you would want to create an on-demand training. You sometimes people do that right out of the gate. Other times people will do that as they have tested their program a number of different times. Then they'll start to package it. And so when you look at this, it's first is your comfort level. Second is how does it fit within your business model? Most of the time, people are trying to package a service, right? So they're trying to package a one-on-one scenario to move from one-on-one to one-to-many. So the progression usually is one-to-one. You're helping your person, you're going through your framework and proving that the model works. And then you move to a group model where you're kind of helping people do it in a live group setting, right? You're either teaching live or you're coaching or you're doing whatever you're doing. You move to one to many, and then you move to one to many on demand, which is you've got the system set up, you've got the framework dialed in to the point where you know how to get somebody a result, and you can then package that. One story I always tell people, which resonates especially with this, is when you're thinking about how you like to show up, that's about you, right? So when you are looking at your customers or your students, how do they want to consume what you're teaching? Do they want to be able to sit down when it's convenient for them and go through your materials? Do they want to be able to replay it over and over and over again until they kind of get the concept that you're talking about? Do they want to do the homework and be able to do it? Do they want to hear it from you and then be able to ask questions right away, right? So you got to kind of think about how people want to consume the information. Uh, one of the things is I was at a conference, this was years ago, and I had packaged my first program, and I had somebody come up to me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what you taught me this morning changed the whole trajectory of my business. Like I literally just made $1,000 like the second that I got done listening to what you were saying." And I was like, "I didn't talk to you this morning." He's like, "Oh yeah, 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 right, right. But I was watching the video and the training. Like it was amazing and da da da." And to me, that was such a powerful moment because he didn't even consider that he wasn't talking to me live. And I didn't even think about the fact that that was even possible. That even though I'm not in front of him live, he is still experiencing what I am teaching and getting transformations and insights, even when it's packaged. I think so often we think, oh well, if it's just a video, nobody's going to get any value out of it, right? It's just a packaged thing and whatever. But they are actually, experiencing you in video and developing a relationship with you in video, just in the same way that they are in person. And so you have to remember that as you're kind of, choosing your model is because sometimes people will say, well, there's no way people will do this, or people can do this without me being there. And that's actually just a false belief because if you would have developed the right experience for people, right, the right journey through your program, they actually can do a lot better when it's on demand versus you showing up kind of ad hoc and helping them, right? And so just remember that as you are determining which direction to go. One of the things that's hot right now is hybrid experiences, and the reason is that people are craving connection. They're craving time where they are able to learn from each other and learn from others, and really be able to ask their specific questions, right? you have your framework, and then there's certain parts of your framework where people are going to have natural hurdles that they have to go over, right? Like learning is not easy. Learning is not passive, right? You have to actually do something, which means that at some point it's going to become hard because you're going from where, something that you're doing today to a change, right? You have to change your behavior, you have to change your performance, you have to change your beliefs, you have to do some sort of changing, which is very difficult. And so those are the times that you actually want to show up to support your person. And so we call that, being able to jump in when there's hurdles, when there are obstacles. That is meaningful conversation. That's meaningful interactions with your people versus, well, I'm just going to show up each week and, and hope that people show up or hope that they participate or hope that they ask questions, right? Sometimes people come to me and they're like, well, I have no participation. Nobody's showing up. And when they show up, I'm just teaching or talking to them because nobody's asking any questions. And it's like, well, do they have questions yet at this point? Like, where are they in the journey? Because they may not need to show up every week because they're not in a place in their journey where they have questions. And so give them the opportunity to show up when they have questions, not sort of when you want to show up or when you think that you need to show up for their participation. So anyway, there's lots of, obviously more detail I can give on this, but this at the crux is where we start when we're looking at when we go into a VIP session, either a course edit or a course launch. It is really answering this question is like, what kind of program do you want to create? Again, this drives strategy. This drives the tech stack that you do, right? The tech will be a little bit different based on which model you're using. And then also your delivery method. If you are delivering live and posting replays, that's a totally different experience than creating on-demand training. I think another sort of misconception that people have is like you just go live and do your virtual training and then you record it and then you just put it out there for eternity and then you have new people come and they just watch your replays. And that's a terrible experience for people, right? Like think about if you were just watching a conversation that's happening and you're not able to participate and it's not necessarily a an organized conversation, right? When somebody's teaching live, they're teaching their material and then they're allowing people to interact. They're allowing people to ask questions. And so it's disjointed. So when you ask somebody to watch an on-demand training, you always want to record that as if you're speaking to the audience, not that they're looking over the shoulder watching you teach to a different audience. And so again, that's the delivery method. It's different. It changes as you are putting this together. And so again, that could be a whole another topic, but I wanted to introduce you to the 3 types of online programs, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of clarity in terms of, oh, well, which one matches your goals, which one matches how you want to show up, and then how do you create some sort of hybrid experience or mix and match that allows you to really grow and scale your product business? Because the reality is that if you're just doing live virtual training, you can put more people into it, right? That's the way that you would scale it, is you would just add more people into a cohort. But at the end of the day, it still requires your time to show up, right? You're still spending as much time as you were before. And if you put more people in, you're actually spending more time because sometimes there's extra things that are happening. If you are delivering live on demand, you're able to scale without scaling your time, right? So your time doesn't go up. You're able to leverage your time better in on-demand training. So there you go. That is my training for today. Hopefully you enjoy this and give us a comment. I'd love to hear which type of program you are using and why.